In 2023, Alex Hormozi posted a YouTube video titled, "If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2024, this is what I'd do." Full blueprint. Well, for the 3.6 million people who have watched this video, they need to be at about $700,000 in net worth right now if they're going to hit the million by the end of the year. And Alex, to his credit, definitely talks about the $1 million as net worth, not sales or revenue. But there's other critical stuff that is left out of this video, and we want to fill in those details for you.
In this podcast, George and I are going to react to some of the key points Alex makes, get into some of the critical steps he doesn't even mention, show you an easier process on how to blueprint your way to $1 million, and talk about the two most important things you must do.
Yeah, that's right. And look, we know Alex is super smart and really good with all this stuff. He's super successful. He's revealed he's made millions of dollars multiple times over. And I think what he's doing in this podcast is he's just simply sharing, here's what he's done. And that's fine. And he makes some really good points, and there's some good stuff in the video. But I'm different than Alex. I've helped lead 19 companies. We've made millions 19 different ways. And the same goes for all the numerous entrepreneurs I've helped guide. And we want to do that for you in this video. Now, Alex's video is 63 minutes long. We can't take the whole thing apart, and we're not. But I've got to start with the title. If I want to become a millionaire in 2024. Okay, wait a minute. He's made it clear what net worth is. So you're going to have sales of $10 million to get to net income of $1 million, or $5 million if you have a 20% net income to $1 million. So, and he's talking real estate, he's talking other avenues, okay? Here's the point. If I want to become a millionaire in 2024 and I've got zero, I don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, I don't think it's realistic at all. Like, to think you can go from, I mean, he doesn't tell you where you're starting from or where his audience is starting from. I'm guessing this is some general blueprint, because you could go starting from zero and starting from a job with saving money and preparing for something are completely different. And Alex kind of walks you through how to come up with an idea, but not really. So he's trying to say within 12 months, you can go from having no ideas to being a millionaire, which, like you said, includes having people buy like $10 million worth of stuff at least.
Yeah. And so Alex has like 3 levels or 3 phases in this talk, and there's like 10 points to each one. And deep in the video, there's this thing he says that reveals where he's actually coming from. And I missed it, but AJ, you caught it.
Yeah, he goes, "This is the journey of glories and riches and status and all things amazing."
Next on our journey of wealth and riches and glory and status and all things amazing.
Like, yeah. That's what being a millionaire is. And that's what we're all doing this for. And that's the only reason you want to do this is status and all things amazing.
Exactly. That's where he's coming from. And that's why he's doing this. But it may not be why you're doing it. And this is really important to understand when you look at these kinds of videos.
Especially when you're, as you talked about, there's these 3 steps he has, or these 3 phases. And what you don't even know is phase 3 is all once you become a millionaire. And so you figure out now he just wants you to become a millionaire over and over and over and over and over again. And right. To him, that's status and all things amazing.
Yeah. And part of this is, yeah, the status thing is very, very interesting. That's not a term most people would use, but it's like, it's all the stuff the money can buy you so you look good to other people. And that may work for Alex, and, you know, that's great, but that may not work for you. And you've got to get your motive straight.
Yeah. And especially when you think about what being an entrepreneur is and how hard it actually is to get to $1 million. I mean, he points it out perfectly when he's talking about the stages of an entrepreneur, and he draws out this diagram where he has the cycles of it. And it all starts out with uninformed optimism, where you think the world is your oyster. Then it goes into informed pessimism. And then you go through this valley of despair where you think it's just all over and you're not going to be able to do it. And then you start to get informed optimism, and then you achieve it. And a lot of people pull out at the valley of despair and just start the cycle again, is what he says. And so he's saying going through this cycle over and over and over again is completely worth it, so you can have status and look good to other people. I mean, I guess it's working on YouTube. We're reacting to his video, but but he's got status with us now. But I don't know if that leads to happiness or joy.
I'm sensing, AJ, you have a little issue here about the valley of despair.
Well, just the way he put it was so just like cut and dry almost. It's like, yeah, you just go through the valley of despair, and if you stay in it long enough, eventually you get to this informed optimism. And in reality, that's not the case. Businesses do fail. Blockbuster got to the valley of despair and they couldn't get out of it.
Look, I've read and studied entrepreneurial cycles and things like that, written by some really good people. Brilliant, frankly. And I've never heard this particular version. And it's making me wonder, because it exposes something that's missing here: market research. You need to know that what your idea is that it's actually going to work. And doesn't he talk about that somewhere, where it's like, you need to make sure there's a hungry audience out there or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. In ideating your company, he's saying the number one thing you should be wishing for and looking for is a hungry audience. You just want to be, he uses the illustration of having, if you had a genie and you were going to open a hot dog stand, what would you ask for? It shouldn't be to be able to make good hot dogs. It should be a busy corner with hungry people. And then it doesn't matter how good your hot dogs are.
If you want to build an amazing business, you want to put your hot dog stand on the best corner in front of a starving crowd. Because if your hot dog stand is on the corner, it doesn't matter how cheap they are, how good they taste, how fast they cook. The moment that hungry crowd walks out and sees your hot dog stand, they're going to sell it every time.
And so this is truly just him trying to think of, just telling you to think of any possible way you can think of to get $1 million in your pocket, no matter what.
Yeah, here's the thing. There's no direction there. There's no strategy there. There's nothing about research, not only the opportunity, but you need to look at pricing, profits, all those kind of things. And what is the competition like?
Well, for pricing and profits, he has this whole value equation, but there's no numbers involved in it, actually, which is how you make an offer. And that's your strategy. According to the videos we go on.
Because my point is, you might be in the valley of despair because no one's buying your product because it's not sellable. And you need to know that, like 3 loops on the cycle before or something, uninformed optimism. No, you need to have informed optimism. So I got to push back really hard on this one.
So you're saying you shouldn't even start on your entrepreneurial journey until you have informed optimism. Don't start at uninformed optimism.
Yeah, I mean, that's dumb.
So that's the problem with the start of the cycle that he proposes. But then you also go to the end of the cycle, this achievement where it's glory and status and riches and all things amazing. But
kind of magical, right? It just sort of poof and happens.
Yes, it's like a fairyland, and it's amazing. It's glorious, as he says. And that glory, when you think about that, and when you're thinking of what you want to achieve, most people would call that goals. But when he actually goes into goals, which I know is something you don't even mention in your book, George, you're just going to... His achievement is the action, according to him. So it's, you don't want to be making money or making 10 sales a day. The goal is to make 100 calls a day. So to him, your achievement is being able to do a set of marketing actions that result in money. And that's
okay. Wait a minute. There's so much I want to react to. I just got to stop you. All right. So, okay. So for some clarification here, first of all, we're not just being cynical or mocking or anything like that, because there's so much absence of information that needs to be included in the thinking. Clarification on my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur, which is building strategies and direction and all that for your company. I don't use goals because the word is misused. It's actually, I call them like key markers or the finish line. And he's right in setting, and we'll use his word for just a second, setting goals to actions let me make sure I understand this, AJ. So he's saying set goals to like the actions you're doing. So your goal is I'm going to make 100 calls today. Is that what he's saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's the way to set goals if you're going to do goals. Okay. And really, those aren't goals. They're actions. Now, here's the way I think about goals. And this really, really works. It's worked with every company I've ever led, is goals are like the score. In sports, we have a field goal. In football. In soccer, we have goals. And then there's basketball, where we have a big argument between AJ and me. I read the NBA rules. He hasn't. I'm not a player. I don't even like basketball. He loves basketball. They are called basketball goals. Okay? Now, he's like, yeah, well, nobody calls them that. I'm like, well, go ahead. I'm not even letting AJ speak.
They're certainly not called basketball goals. If you're going to be a technical nerd like you are reading the NBA rules, then it'll be a field goal. But anybody else just calls them like baskets.
But the point is, goals are points. That's my point of the goals. And so, what are your goals for 2025? Well, it would be like saying, how many touchdowns are you going to score? How many field goals are you going to get, or whatever? So you've got actions and strategies. We're going to explain this in a second, but he's mixing all this up and it gets muddled.
Well, no worries, George. If it gets all muddled for you, he's got a scientific method just on the next step to help you out. And this is actually the last step of phase 2, which is where you're supposed to become a millionaire. So this is the capstone course on how to become a millionaire by Alex Hormozi. And it's do the scientific method for your goals. So if you've identified a problem, propose a hypothesis on how you're going to solve it and the actions you need to take to solve it, and then experiment. See what happens. Run your business. See if you make money. See if you don't. And if you do make money, then you should go on to phase 3 of the video, and he'll show you how to just keep being a millionaire over and over and over again. But if not, then I guess you just got to go back to the start of the video and try again.
But if we did do the thing, then either it improved it, or maybe we redesigned the website and the conversion rate didn't improve. So either that might not be the constraint, or our hypothesis was wrong. And so this allows you to iteratively improve the business.
Let's break down this scientific method. So you've got to identify whatever your problem is.
Yes.
Okay. And then you're going to come up with ideas to solve the problem.
Yes.
Well, and then you're going to measure it, like you're going to do something to solve the problem and measure it. Where's the goal in all of this? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The goal is to make money. So when you're measuring, if you're making money, you're doing good. If you aren't measuring and making money, then you're not doing good, and you got to form a new hypothesis. And all of this has to be done by 2024. So if you got to run 20 experiments to maybe have a chance of this working.
So he's actually created a contradiction. So he's right. The best kind of goals to set, guys, are like, okay, I can't control the outcome of my, let's say, 100 sales calls, but I can control whether I go do 100 sales calls or not. Okay. So that's gold right there. That's gold, because you'll get all depressed if you just look at, the valley of despair or whatever it is. You'll end up there if you're trying to determine the outcome in your goals. But then he says the goal, or implies the goal, is to become a millionaire by the end of 2024. Well, that's not a goal. You can only do all the actions that take you there and it happens or it doesn't.
Exactly. So it's not a blueprint. It's him. I mean, he's giving some sound advice. Like there's a lot of good, like just fundamental finance tips he's giving you in there and fundamental like business thinking tips. But that's ultimately all it is. It's a collection of tips. It's not really a blueprint because the ultimate prescription is do some actions and see what happens.
One of the things that's really missing out of all of this is the reality of life. There's headwinds that are going to hit you. Government regulations and taxes. My gosh. I mean, if you open up a hot dog stand, do you know what the regulations are to sell hot dogs? I mean, oh my gosh. So he doesn't account for any of that. Okay. Well, you have to if you're going to make your $1 million selling hot dogs.
And that's not even to mention that $1 million isn't worth what it used to be. It's basically a millionaire is basically like upper middle class now.
Right.
Last year, Alex Hormozi posted a video titled, "If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2024, this is what I'd do. Full blueprint." Now, being a millionaire sounds great and all, but I think a more appealing title would be, "If I wanted to become free in 2024, this is what I'd do. Full blueprint." Because what us entrepreneurs are after is so much bigger than wealth.
Yeah, I agree, AJ. And I think a lot of us become entrepreneurs, business owners looking for freedom, but we're not finding it because we're working too hard. We're not making enough money. We don't have enough time to do those other things we'd love to be doing. So we look at a video like Alex's on how to be a millionaire and hoping for anything. We're going to show you 4 elements on how to think about this to grow your wealth, to grow your company, to have more time and more freedom. Yeah, and the first element here is direction. You got to know where you're headed as an entrepreneur, as a business owner for your company.
Yeah, and actually one of the spots I found myself agreeing with Alex here was in talking about building for the long game. He uses these blocks to illustrate it, but it's like if you build a tower in 10 seconds and you just build it straight up, the blocks can fall over easily. But if you took your time and meticulously placed out the blocks, you can kind of plan it out better and build a more stable foundation for your business.
Yeah, isn't this where he's talking about you've got to build a good foundation first before you build the building?
Yeah, exactly. He's playing with blocks.
Yeah, he's playing with cardboard boxes in his kitchen. Okay, guys?
Now we have our foundation built for level 1 of wealth creation.
That sounds awesome, unless you really start to think about it. You got to know where you're headed, and you don't know where you're headed. How big a building is he building?
As big as you can is the goal. As many millions as possible, as big as possible.
As big as possible. Okay. The biggest building I know of in the United States, or close to it, is the Freedom Tower that was built in New York City. And that foundation goes down lots of stories, lots and lots of stories, deep. All right. Well, you don't need a 10, 15-story foundation if you're building a 2-story building. And okay, or I'm going to build this thing as big as I'm going to build the biggest building I can. And you spend 10 years building a 10-story foundation, but you have no building. It sounds, this is really important, guys. If you don't know where you're headed, you're not going to get there. I think something else, AJ, that you've pointed out is he goes into the third part of this video talking about, so the next step or the direction is really becoming a millionaire. Again and again. And again. And it's like, you know what, guys, that may not be your direction. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a millionaire, but you may have some other things in life you want to do.
I think your analogy there was perfect. Like, if you just want a 2-story building, you don't need to build the deepest foundation possible. And if you're trying to build a skyscraper, yeah, you need to build a deeper foundation. But at the same time, there's kind of this balancing act going on between getting out to the market, getting out there, doing what you love, and planning things out and mapping things out, because you're trying to plan things out, be ready, be professional, But at the same time, you don't want to suffer like paralysis by analysis, where all you've done is build this deep, deep, deep foundation, and the foundation looks beautiful and extraordinary, but there's just no building on the ground for anybody to see.
Yeah, exactly. So here's how this works. If you're thinking about, okay, this is where I'm headed, now think about how you're going to get there. And how you're going to get there are going to be strategies, okay? And strategies can take a year or 2 or 3 to accomplish, but they take you in the direction you're headed. And not just a marketing and sales strategy, which is what Alex talks about. There's another strategy he says don't use, but there's way more than just a marketing and sales strategy.
I mean, he does give kind of his core strategy, I guess you might describe it as.
Okay.
That it's how he creates offers, how he maximizes value and delivers for his customers or whatever market it is. And he uses six-pack abs to illustrate it. So it's value equals this dream outcome, which would be the six-pack of abs,
right,
plus the likelihood to achieve it. So somebody thinking, how likely are you to deliver them that six-pack of abs?
Okay.
And then all of that is over the time you needed to achieve it. So how long would that person have to be with you to get the six-pack of abs? And what do they have to give up and do in order to get it? So how many crunches do they have to do, and how many donuts do they have to give up? And ideally, you want to maximize the stuff on the top. So you want to say, we'll actually get you an 8-pack of abs, and you're 100% likely to get it. And then you only have to come here for 20 minutes a day for a week, and you don't have to give up donuts. That would be the perfect value and the best offer you could give to somebody.
So this is a value proposition strategy for the entire business, right? Yes. Okay, that's good. That's fine. And it takes you in the direction of where you're going to be a millionaire. And you're going to need some kind of value proposition strategy just like that if you know your direction. But your value proposition takes you in your direction. Where are you going? And it's more than one strategy. You're going to have multiple strategies because you're going to have multiple obstacles to overcome.
Yeah, because this is all about value to the customer. This doesn't even talk about obstacles for the business, like the fact that you can't give somebody an 8-pack of abs in 60 minutes in a week.
Right. So in my process, which is in my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur, is part of the development of strategies is what are some of the obstacles we're going to face in, say you want to be a millionaire. Okay, I'm fine with that. To getting to $1 million, what are some of those obstacles? And then we're going to strategize how to overcome every one of those obstacles. It's an amazing process, and it absolutely produces some brilliant strategies. But I will tell you, if he doesn't mention obstacles, this is not realistic.
No, he uses this to go right into marketing strategies. And he talks about the 4 ways you can market yourself, and then the 4 ways other people can market for you. And then just focus on one of those 4 ways, get good at it, and then boom, your business is booming.
Yeah. So guys, this is something I think, like, Alex is obviously very good on the marketing strategies. He's got 3.6 million views on this video. His YouTube channel has blown up over the few years. So you got to have that. Okay. But if you're looking for the millionaire stuff, maybe he's not the complete package for that. Because then you get into, from strategies to accomplish strategies, you have action. So that's the third thing to be thinking about. The third element is, like, what are the actions I need to do to accomplish that strategy? And
to Alex, actions are goals. So so what you're saying is that actions are tactics, which are actually under strategies, which are under your direction. And to Alex, just the actions are the goals, the end all be all. Right.
Which is not, it doesn't make sense. Let's use a very simple military example. So our overall direction would be, let's win the war. Okay. And a strategy is, we've got to control this land. Okay. And by controlling this section of land, we have a tactic. And that tactic is we got to take that hill. All right. What he's saying is, let's go take that hill. It's like, well, okay, but will that lead us? Where's that going to take it? Okay, so we took the hill. All right, now what? Because we don't know how the hill fits into the overall strategy and direction of where we're going. And we might get lucky and go, wow, we can control the whole landscape from this hill. We didn't know that. We just got lucky. It's like if you go at it from direction, strategy, action, or tactics, you're not going to waste a lot of resources, and you're not going to waste a lot of time.
Yeah, where Alex, your goals are these actions, which could be wasting time. He says to pick one marketing strategy and get good at it. But let's say you say, okay, I'm going to cold call 100 people a day, and that's my goal, that's my action. And now you start making these 100 calls a day. But what if 100 calls a day isn't at all the right way to reach people for your business? Like if you're a restaurant, I don't know the last time you got cold called to go into a restaurant. I feel like that'd be pretty weird. But if that's what you end up picking and you just triple and quadruple down on that, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah. So let me just share. This is very, very valuable, what I'm about to tell you guys, and I've used this over and over with companies to grow their wealth. If you think about, so what is the obstacle you're solving for? What is the problem? And the problem is, I've got to increase sales. So what are all the obstacles that prevent people from buying my product or knowing about my product or service and all those sorts of things? And you get that really clear, and it's kind of a downer, to be honest. You want to go to the depths of despair, or something. But anyhow,
the valley of despair.
That valley of despair, right. It'll take you down there. And we talk about this in my book. It'll take you down there, but we don't stay there very long, because we immediately start strategizing how we're going to overcome all those obstacles. And that might be a strategy to start cold calling. And then a tactic would be, we're going to make 10 calls a day. Or a strategy might be not doing that and doing something else. But it's, so if the strategy isn't working, and here's the beauty of my process, is it allows you to pivot, and you know what you're going to pivot to, because you know what you're solving for.
So what do you do with no goals in your book, George? How do you know you've made it?
Right. Okay. So let's get back to this whole thing. If his goal is to make $1 million, okay, I go, and I've had this conversation with countless entrepreneurs. I'm like, where are you headed? Okay, back to direction. And they go, I'm going to make $1 million. Okay, that would be like me walking up to you, sitting in your driveway, your car's going and you're in it. And I go, hey, where are you going? And you go, I'm going to drive 80 miles an hour. And I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. But where? And you go, I don't know, but I'm going to get there really fast. It's like, what? That's insane. Okay. Or like, you don't know where you're going. I mean, yeah. Well, how are you going to get? So what is $1 million? It's a metric. It measures. It's like mileage. It'd be the same thing saying, I'm going to drive 100 miles today. Okay. Where are you going? I don't know, but I'm going to get 100 miles on my odometer. And you're like, this guy's crazy. So, I mean, especially with gas prices, unless it's electric. And but here's the thing is that you've got to know where you're headed. And so, well, how do you know you got there? You have a finish line. Ta-da! Just like in track, or you have a goal line. Goal line. I'm just adding words here. Like the end zone. Like, I know when I've hit a home run, I can, and so I know I have measurements to all the strategies. And they may not be dollars, they may be metrics. Okay. But I have something that says, here's when you cross the finish line. Here's when you got there. And like with one company to be the world's greatest, well, we knew we had a way to measure that because there was independent services that would track that. And we could see, wow, we've become number one, which is the direction we were headed from 5 years ago.
And Alex doesn't say anything like that in this whole hour-long video. It's just your goals are your actions and you're going to be a millionaire. And it's nothing along the lines of knowing when you get there, measuring progress along the way. There's no finish line. There's no Super Bowl. In the Alex video, it just kind of feels like it's just like you show up at the track and just keep running around.
Grind out to the next $1 million. Alex Hormozi believes we can all become millionaires in 12 months based on this video of becoming a millionaire in 2024. And he lays out his whole blueprint for that. Honestly, it's too complicated. He's missing parts. There are some good ideas in there, but we can distill that down to the essence of everything you need to know in 3 words. Get business savvy.
We're going to show you how Get Business Savvy can lead you to sustainable, profitable growth with greater fulfillment.
Because isn't that what we really want? I mean, I think for most of us entrepreneurs, business owners, oftentimes we're feeling stressed, overwhelmed. We can't get it all done. We don't have enough time. The money isn't what we thought it was going to be. And we're looking for some freedom.
But in Alex Hormozi's video, he says we do all of this for status, for glory, and for riches and everything else that's amazing in this world of material things you can find.
Next on our journey of wealth and riches and glory and status and all things amazing.
I think that absolutely works for some people. The problem is every single one of them, including Alex, are going to discover there's a hollowness to that. And there's a richness to life. And so we begin with passion. What do you love? And not everything you love to do, not everything you have a passion for is monetizable or can be turned into a business, for example. But my gosh, if you can get at the intersection of what you've got some ability at, what you love to do, develop some experience and make money at it, oh my gosh.
And yeah, and simply put, if we're going to follow Hormozi's formula of actions being goals, shouldn't your goal then be to be doing actions that you enjoy doing? If that's the end all be all with Alex and those are his goals are to perform the actions, you should probably be thinking, what do I actually want to do then? Right.
Okay. So with Get Business Savvy, I discovered if you focus on these 2 things first, okay, it's not the only 2 things, but these are the most important 2 things, you will achieve that profitable, sustainable growth you're talking about, AJ. And part of it is direction. You got to know where you're headed. And I know I keep saying that, and I sound like a broken record, but I don't think most people know where they're going.
And you need to repeat yourself because the direction thing's such a common mistake. I mean, I made it, and I'm pretty sure almost every entrepreneur or anybody who's starting with it, especially given how this YouTube culture is, you start with, yes, I want to be a millionaire. I want to go to the land of glory and riches and status and everything amazing. But that's not at all describing your business. It's not at all thinking about what you're actually doing and how you're going to produce value.
Right. Okay. So guys, he was just quoting, that's the quote Alex says deep in this video that reveals his true direction and motives, honestly. And we're not critical of that. We're just saying, I don't think that fits most people because you know why? I think okay, let me share a little on AJ. I think I know enough about AJ where it's like one day he hopes to get married. He hopes to have kids. He hopes to raise a family, and if being a millionaire, if you get a choice between that and having $1 million, I don't know that he's going to take the $1 million. He might settle at a half. $500,000 may be good enough. It's kind of like,
yeah, I could easily settle for $500 million for a happy family.
From where you're sitting right now, a half sounds really good, right? Okay, yeah. So it's like,
take a quarter.
Wow, that'd be awesome. I don't even know. Okay, so here's the thing, guys, is it's like that's direction. Okay, So it's like, I want to be rich is a direction. I want to have status is a direction. I want to have a family. That's direction. I want to do other stuff than just work. I want to have an impact for good in the world. That's direction. I may need a business to fund that, a family to join me in it. Look, we all have our own stories. And so we start Get Business Savvy with your passions, because if it's what you love to do, it will sustain you. What did he call it? In that valley of despair?
Yes, exactly.
That's how you get through it. You don't just suck it up. You're going like, I'm doing what I love, and I'm going to make this work. And we've also added, which he doesn't, is that it's got to be monetizable. You got to be able to make a living at it. You got to have been doing some research to know, hey, people sell jillions of these, so I should be able to too.
Yeah, and having the love be what's fueling you through the valley of despair sounds great. But George, as you're going through the valley of despair, what can kind of inform you to get you out of there, like actually practically?
Okay, so there's the other thing. We should talk about the other thing that you need. You need to know direction, and you need to understand your numbers. And what's interesting to me is that's an area most business owners don't really understand, because they know what they love. So the most entrepreneurs, not all of them, but most entrepreneurs are doing something that they have some skill in, that they love to do. I remember my first company I helped lead was a roofing company, and Balt loved construction, particularly roofs. He's an expert, okay? But the business side, it was like disastrous. But he could sell, and he could get you buying his roofs, and he could install them, and they were great. That's most entrepreneurs, I think.
I mean, I know that's kind of how I started. I just wanted to get my shoulder device out to the market. We'll sell it. We'll win the competition, have some money in the bank, and then we'll make some and keep selling them. And that's kind of all I was thinking about doing.
Did you love it?
No, I didn't think about loving anything. I wanted to get to the land of glory and riches.
Oh, okay. And status. Don't forget status.
Yes,
it's like, yeah. So we start with passion, and so with numbers. That's why numbers are sort of this vague area. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a lot of misleading stuff out there that they adapt. And that is, if I have money in the bank, I'm doing good. And if I don't have money in the bank, it's bad. And that may be true, but I can create scenarios that show just the opposite. No money in the bank is good, and having money in the bank is bad. Now, this is not what we're about today, but I'm just illustrating that's how fundamental it is.
Well, I guess I didn't look at only the money in the bank. I was also looking at the bottom line. I mean, for us, it was a negative number, but ideally you want to look at profits and see whether we made money or lost money this month.
Correct. So that's not bad. I mean, yeah, that's definitely something you need to know, but it's a lagging indicator. That means it's after the fact. But it tells you nothing about, other than a plus or a minus. It doesn't give you any insight into the business and what's going on. And what you really want are leading indicators that are going to give you a heads up so that you can make corrections and pivots, like having projections, like understanding the balance sheet. So there's a whole thing there, but this is the most important thing, is you've got to understand your numbers. Why? So that you can lead your company by making decisions based on those numbers.
And that sounds just very intuitive. But then you look at the Alex Hormozi video, and he actually doesn't talk about numbers in the entire thing, except at the very beginning when he's telling you the difference between making $1 million and being worth $1 million. But outside of that, there's no numbers to inform your direction or the decisions you're making, other than what gets me closer to $1 million.
Yeah. And here's the fascinating thing. I think I can say this categorically, that every single millionaire I've known and billionaire understand the numbers. And they understand them like you can't believe how they understand them. Yes, I was at a conference last year, and the now infamous Mr. Beast, Jimmy Donaldson, was speaking, and he was on his channel mostly and giving YouTube tips because that's what the conference was about. But he got to talking about the business side of stuff where, we're all chomping down, Mr. Beast burgers and all that stuff. And he referred to then there's the number side of the business, and you've got to understand that, but that's boring. And I'll talk about how to make videos. Let me tell you something about Jimmy. He knows those numbers like nobody's business. Don't let him fool you that they're boring. Oh, it's boring to talk about, but he's worth $1 billion because he understands the numbers.
And George, let's just make this clear for people and pull up the triangle on your website that really just puts this together so you can see how mapping your direction and knowing your numbers do work together to ultimately get business savvy.
So you can see all arrows point up, all right? And on the right side is mapping your direction. And you want to lead using strategies and tactics, and then understanding your numbers, and lead making decisions using your numbers. And like I said earlier, I have found that these two things, if all you do are these two things, you will grow your business savvy immensely. And by doing that, you're not going to luck into making $1 million. You're going to create profitable and sustainable growth.
And don't forget, with greater fulfillment. And that's not just saying be a millionaire. That's doing something you love, sourcing your passions, and you're succeeding at it. And in the midst of succeeding at it, you're having fulfillment, you're feeling freedom, and that actually sounds far more glorious to me than the land of riches and status.
And it's very appealing to Gen Z, and I think a lot of millennials. Well, here's what's interesting. Hormozi's like 35, 36. So it's like, okay. So it's not going to work for everybody. But honestly, this works for everybody, because if your greatest fulfillment is being a millionaire and having status, blah, blah, boom, this is going to work for you. But we're actually thinking about, you've got passions that lead you in the business, but you've also got passions in life. And life is more than just making money. And if you don't understand that now, you will, I promise you, as you get older, like me. So, just saying, that's what we're after, is fulfilling life and really honestly impacting your world for good.
So if you're feeling like there's more to life and that you want to achieve more, instead of going straight to the how to become a millionaire video and thinking the number of money and thinking that your net worth is somehow going to fulfill that need for more, I would say you should maybe look at that again and think of, where are you actually going? Try to map out your direction and think of what your finish line is and what that looks like and feels like when you're there. And then start to know your numbers and make decisions based off of those so that you can get business savvy and you can live into freedom, which also could include wealth.
Yeah, because honestly, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, there's a certain level where money really helps. And then there's a level where it has a de minimis impact. And I guarantee you it's like $150,000, $200,000 in income. So it's really not the end all everyone thinks.
Because if you think that you can become a millionaire in 12 months and that wealth is going to solve all your problems, you'll probably end up in the valley of despair.
Lovely, AJ. And on that note, everybody, that positive note, no, seriously, get business savvy is going to make all the difference. And if you've got some, get some more. You can't have enough of business savvy. And that's just building up your business experience. So if you want more details on how to become a millionaire, get rich, or just have a fulfilling life, seriously, come to our monthly Get Business Savvy mastermind. It's free. It's on Zoom. It's highly interactive. We'd love to see you there. Click the link below and check out this podcast right here on side hustles. We explore what other people are saying about side hustles, and you'll hear our take as well. And until next time, may you live truly free.